Hi, I'm Rojda Sekersöz, and you're watching the Permanent Rain Press.
Hi everyone, it's Chloe with the Permanent Rain Press, and today I am so thrilled to be joined by Rojda Sekersöz. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you for asking, and I am just so excited to be diving deep into Young Royals with you on this show. We were just talking beforehand, has reached so many different places in the world. Is it still surreal to think about that?
Yeah, I don't really think that I understand it quite because it's too big. So yeah, I'm like when people ask me how does it feel, I'm like, well, it's like I'm happy about it, but I don't really think that I understand.
Every day you probably wake up and still pinch yourself.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So before we talk about the show, I wanted to ask you about your background in the arts. What really drew you towards filmmaking and then your love for other mediums like music and poetry?
Well, I started out writing when I was really, I think I was like, I just became a teenager. I was an old soul. So when I think I was 11 when I when I wrote my first poems. And then I started to do spoken word and I wanted to be an actress. And then when I was 13, after watching Billy Elliot and The Believer, I decided that I wanted to be a filmmaker or a director specifically. And I didn't really know what a director did, but I knew that I was it would be my job to be in charge of which stories to tell. So that was why that was my first step into filmmaking.
I love what you mentioned about, oh, I wanted to kind of be in charge because sometimes, if you're a visionary, you kind of have those motivations to be that driving force. And that led you to your studies at the Stockholm Academy of
Yeah.
Dramatic Arts. So tell me a bit about your program, and did it really help you hone in on your craft?
Yeah, I mean, my program was a really like practical program. So we did a lot of like short films and I met a lot of what would become my colleagues at school. And for me, I I don't have any connection like my I don't have family working in the business or in the cultural like areas. So it was really crucial for me to go to that school because the school actually gave me all my connections, and it also helped me to it helped me open doors. So when I was like my last year at school, I knew that okay, now I need to use this. So I called like a lot of producers and companies and said that I'm going my last year at the dramatic arts, and can I buy you a cup of coffee and just get to know you. So that was really my ticket into the business.
It's really true what they say about networking, I guess,
Yeah.
right? Like coffee chats, all the making the connections, and I'm sure that kind of helped you work on your feature film directorial debut was Beyond Dreams in 2017. Tell me, what did that process teach you about yourself as a director, and what kind of challenges did you face?
I think the most valuable thing that it taught me was that I need to trust my instinct and to um, even if not everybody believes in it right when I try to pitch a vision or like that really need to trust my instinct and be true to what I want to tell and not just to please other people. And I think for me the most challenging thing was to decide what type of leader I want to be on a film set.
Do you think that leadership style changes from production to production, or have you kind of gotten a feel of who you want to be behind the camera and when you're directing actors?
Yeah, I think that they like. I think I can't change who I am or my like impulses maybe always and instincts, but of course I need to like it needs to be a bit different depending on the team. But I've also learned to choose people to work with that works with me. And also like throughout the time I've developed my I haven't changed, but I've developed my methods with actors, and I'm really happy I'm really happy that I'm so like that I know my style as a director, and that I know what I like, and I'm really comfortable with my style. Yeah.
So let's talk about the show in question, Young Royals. How did you come to be attached to this project, and what were your early discussions with your head writer, Lisa Ambjorn, and this story?
I got attached after sharing my vision of I got to read a pitch, and I shared my vision of how I would want to do the show. And I felt like the producers, Lisa and me, we all were very synced. And I felt like I felt that my ideas were encouraged by them. So that was how I got attached to the show. Yeah.
What was the early kind of pitch that you read that kind of got you interested in this story?
I mean, I always like when there are rules in a story, because my brain functions better with rules. So obviously I like the boarding school set, and I felt like, okay, it's really interesting. It's like taking society but like narrow it down. So that was a thing that attracted me, and the class differences that occurs in an environment like that. And also it was really appealing to me to do a love story between two guys who, but not to, this is not a coming out story, and to normalize their love, and to make it as a main topic, and not just, you know, a gay friend or like a side story. So obviously those that was what drew me to the story. Yeah.
So with those themes of the class system and honor culture, as a director, how did you want to shape them throughout the show? And did your vision kind of change or evolve as production went on?
I actually noticed that really rich people and really poor people have a lot of things in common. As a like the structures of, like, I really could notice like some of the things that I know from the Kurdish culture, like the culture in the villages in the Kurdish community. I noticed that they're the same social like structures as in the, you know, richest Swedish communities. Like how you treat older people, like to rise when someone when an older person gets in the room, the like who you can fall in love with, and you know, all that stuff. So that was really interesting for me to notice. And I also thought that it was really important to cast in a way that wasn't, you know, black and white. So I wanted to do some unexpected choices that would like fuck people's mind up a bit. Sorry.
I love Yeah, because like you mentioned, though, the casting process, it wasn't a typical breakdown when you're looking for certain genders, ethnicity,
Mm,
heights, like eye color,
yeah.
etc. So what kind of went into that? And then during the casting process, like what kind of scenes did you have people read for you in order to get that emotional portrayal of the characters?
This was also a thing that was really fun working with, because um, I wanted to have a really wide and open casting process. So I was really open to maybe if a character has a male name, like I wanted to in some of the cases erase like sex and ethnicity of the characters and see like what can we find, like what type of feeling do this character have, and can we find a, a, a person with this feeling or this energy that I'm looking for. And also some of the characters I had really like specific thoughts of how I wanted them to look like. And I feel like we are working with moving picture, and I feel it's really important to make choices. Uh, and sometimes it's hard to find diversity because when people aren't represented on screen, then they don't like think that that is a possibility, so they don't come to you. So obviously it can be harder to find diversity, but I feel like you need to go that extra mile to find people. And some of the characters I had really specific looks that I was looking for. And of course we casted a lot of people, and I also not only one-on-one but also in groups, uh, and we've changed sex on a few of the characters and changed looks. So yeah, but it was a really fun process, and I also think that we somehow proved that everything doesn't have to be as it always has been, and that a show can resonate with people anyway. And of course there will be a few people who get provoked or who doesn't believe in the characters because they're not used to it, but let them live their life, and we'll live our lives.
I think a lot of people have mentioned the fact of representation, and not only because people like Frida, she has Asperger's in real life, so people on the spectrum, and then casting people who have textured skin, because I
Yeah,
think that that's another thing that we don't get to see a lot of in shows
yeah,
nowadays.
yeah. But and I also I was actually really surprised over this thing with the skin texture and stuff like that, that people reacted on that, because for me it was so normal because that's how like teenagers look like. And that really made me, I mean, I'm really happy that we did these choices, but it also made me really sad because like there was it put a light on how fucked up the ideals are, and how like young people are just being fed images that aren't real. Yeah, but that was an aspect that I did not expect. I didn't expect it to get attention actually.
I'm really glad that it did, because I think that it's also kind of setting this standard where now with this show you're like these people are going through puberty and they're
Yeah,
teenagers, and I'm really excited and happy that it's been portrayed. Before a new project, I know you like to create a playlist to kind of help
yeah.
you understand your vision and create tone. What kind of genres or sounds really spoke to you for Young Royals?
One of the first songs that I had in mind, and that like that I felt like, okay, somehow I want this show to feel like this, and that was a Nadia Taran song. it's the song that we use when they're in the first episode, when they are doing this, I don't know what it's called in English, you know, when they're like making him wet and all that stuff before the party.
Oh, kind of like hazing.
Yeah, exactly, the hazing situation. We use the song, and that's like a punk song. So for me, it was really important to have contrasts in this show. And I also, like, one of my like themes was that I don't want to respect this environment. So with the cinematographer and with the music supervisor and composer, we talked about that a lot. Like, how can we, because the environment is so beautiful, like you usually, like, I didn't want to go with the beauty of the environment. I wanted to like have some punkness in it, even if it's the cinematography or the lighting. I wanted to be a bit darker, sometimes work with shadow and lightning. And also the music, we chose to have, like, the composed music is electronic music, and the songs are also, like, it was really important for me to have mostly Swedish produced songs, and also Swedish produced songs of POC women. So that's not something, obviously, you don't see that when you're watching the show, but representation behind the camera is important as well. And yeah, I wanted to have like distinct songs and songs that made statements.
That's fantastic about that representation. And you posted some of those artists on your Instagram, like Gina Durari and Seinabo C. So it's so important because consciously you're also thinking these could end up in the show, and you want to be a platform for these artists.
Yeah, of course. And I feel like filmmaking is all about gaze. So I feel like the more gazes we include, the more interesting stories we can tell. So yeah, I think that's important. And also, like, representation isn't only about color. It's about class. It's about age. It's about, I mean, it's about everything. Yeah.
So tell me about working with this main cast, specifically like Edvin, Omar, Nikita, Frida, and Malte, and how you and your fellow director Erica kind of got to know them. Like, what were your first impressions when you met this group?
I mean, they are so wonderful, and they're like, it's actually so weird that everyone on the show, like all the cast, even like the extras, everybody became friends. So that's a really beautiful thing. And we, like the main cast, the ones that you mentioned, and me and Erica, we had some workshop days beforehand with the acting coach named Matthew Allen. So with the workshop, our workshop days, and then we had dinners. And I mean, I feel like it's really important to build like a safe zone, and that a safe professional zone. So that was what we did beforehand. And then, of course, like the I mean, shooting a TV show is really intense. So you get to know each other's best and worst sides.
What is it like shooting during a pandemic, and then, like you mentioned, being safe and fun? So maintaining that friendship, but also that professionalism, because at the end of the day, you have deadlines and you're
Yeah.
here to create a show. So how about those kind of boundaries? Have you kind of worked a good balance between the two of them?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I mean, for me, like when we're on set, we're working. So it doesn't matter if you're a child, if you're an adult, or if you're a teenager. We're all like co-workers, and we need to respect each other. So I haven't had any problem with that, and I feel like everyone, they were so professional. Even like Nikita, this was her first role, and yet she was like, I didn't feel like she was new at this on set, you know. So I feel like everyone was really professional, um, and I mean, working during a pandemic was special, and it was hard, and it was special.
I love that, hard and special, right? Like those two kind of disparities. What was the moment that you knew you had found something special with Edwin and Omar as Wilhelm and Simon? You kind of alluded to this on Instagram, you posted recently, but what was that exact moment? Was it during filming or was it during the casting process?
I think it was during the casting process. We actually casted Edwin first, or we decided to work with Edwin first, and then we casted a lot of Simons. And I just like today, a few hours ago, I was like going through my email, and then I found a mail that I think I'd sent it to the producers, and I had wrote like, "Hi, I think we have found Simon. It's a guy called Omar Rudberg. I think I'm falling in love with him. We need to have him on the show." So, and also like I felt like separate. I don't really remember. No, I really think that Simon's first time I met him was with Edwin. Like we had this we had the scene that they did together, and that then I noticed that like they were so brave. They didn't know each other, and they were so brave, and they really, there was a chemistry there that they could take care of, you know, and they weren't afraid. And for me, like the best actors to work with are brave actors. And they were so like intelligent also, so they had their own ideas, and there was an energy there that like I knew when I saw them together that these two guys are Simon and Wilhelm.
That's so beautiful to kind of come full circle. You said looking at
Yeah,
the email from probably sometime last year. Now,
yeah.
what was your favorite scene to direct and why?
I think my favorite scene was actually the one at the football field, soccer field, um, episode 4, because it was like we had like we didn't have a lot of time. I think that scene is made with like it was 2 7-minute shots, and I was like, that scene was really what filmmaking is about. That we had such a good collaboration, me, Edwin, and the cinematographer. And it was also hard scene because of different reasons we needed to improvise. So we had like we had the direction of the scene. We knew where he came from and where he was gonna end up, but we couldn't really, like, we needed to improvise. Um, and we were at at the soccer field, and I felt like, okay, we need to have, I like when stuff get physical, you know. So I had this idea of, me and Edwin watched, you know, the scene where Leonardo DiCaprio in Wolf of Wall Street, when he's like crawling towards the car. And we watched that, and we were like, okay, so what do we need? Like, this is our inspiration. What do we need? So we talked with the set designer, and we were like, could you fix some, you know, these fake, you know, football people with steel, the red ones. So they fixed that, and then we just like I crawled around on the field, and I felt these, you know, these plastic things, and I was like, wow, this looks like this could be caviar. Maybe you can eat these. And then the first assistant director was like, no, I think that's poison. That's poison. And then Edwin was like, he was eating it, and I'm like, oh yeah. And then you notice this is fake, and Edwin was like, yeah, and the grass is fake, and everything is fake, and those people are fake. And then we were like, yeah, but your love for Simon isn't fake. And that was like such a beautiful process. And how like the cinematographer Marek, how he followed Edwin, and Edwin was really free, and all his, the like I love all the impulses that Edwin had, and that he could really take care of his own impulses. Um, no, that was like a really, for me as a director, that scene was a really like fulfilling scene to shoot. And then when I came to the editing room, all the editors had the playlists that we made. And when I came to the editing room, and then I saw Sofia Lindgren, the editor, she had put this Revolution song on the scene, and that was like that. It was such a collaboration of everybody, and that's what filmmaking is.
Thank you for giving us insight into that. I think like we see the scene and it was such a poignant scene, but we don't get to see the behind the scenes process and really how you kind of worked on it together. Everything from your initial idea to, crawling through the dirt and the poison while he's alive. So I'm glad that it wasn't actually poison for all of you. Now, on the flip side, like what was the most difficult scene for you to shoot in terms of any issues or just conceptualizing?
I think that the most difficult scenes, I would say, was the intimate scenes between the actors and actresses. Because like as a director, we work with Sarah, our intimacy coordinator, and like I'm like, when you work with a IC, then you're like, how isn't this like the standard always? And how I mean, because when you do stunts, you're not like giving the responsibility to the actors and the directors to do the stunt, and this is like also a stunt, so in a way. So that I'm really grateful for this experience. But for me as a director, like I see stuff and I want to push sometimes, and I want to create, I want to, but that's like to hold back and to get used to the rules of shooting intimacy, basically. That was something I had to learn, and that I had to like, okay, so now I need to go back to Sarah and talk to her, and then we can change the choreography of the intimacy. Because usually, before I work with an IC, I'm used to talking to the actors myself, and in an amateur way, choreograph them. So that was really a challenge, but a good challenge.
So what was it like working with Sarah, and how were they able to kind of bring your vision to life in a safe and authentic way? And after this experience, do you think that you'll be pushing, for more ICs on the productions that you're working on?
Yeah, I mean, I won't work on productions with intimate scenes without an IC, because that would be, as I said, working with stunt scenes without a stunt coordinator. So I'll always work with an IC from now on. Well, the process was like, we discussed what scenes that we were gonna work together, and then we discussed the scenes. For me, throughout the season, it was really important for me to not romanticize their experiences, because I feel like sometimes you get into the love thing and then you romanticize, but being a teenager, you do a lot of stuff for the first time, and it's awkward, and it's like, it's not romantic. So that we talked a lot about that, me and Sarah, and how we could choreograph kind of like quirkiness or awkwardness in the scenes. And then if I have any specific ideas, I'll share that with her. And then she'll share her ideas with me, and we'll talk about that. And then we will rehearse with the actors. So she has this set of like things that she does, warm up sessions that are like physical stuff. And then we talk about consent, obviously, and then she presents a choreography for me, and then we work from there and rehearse. And she was also with me on set for those scenes.
I like that it is very collaborative. It's all about listening, and all of those intimate scenes did feel very grounded. So,
Yeah,
really good work to everyone involved, ICs, actors, everyone
yeah.
behind the scenes. I wanted to talk about a couple of characters in particular that kind of went on journeys throughout the season. The first being Wilhelm with his anxiety. We see him rub his chest. He tends to withdraw from social situations. What did you talk about with Edvin in terms of portraying these emotions?
Well, we talked a lot about like how to physicalize the emotions, because I have a lot of experience from anxiety myself, and it's always, not always, but it's very often physical. So we talked about, okay, can we make up some rules for the anxiety? Uh, it feels here. So this is where your anxiety is. Okay, so rub your chest. So this was one of the things we had, rubbing the chest. And then for the scene in episode 4, when he is the crown prince and when the principal leaves him in the room before he storms out, that was a hard scene because we didn't really know like what to do with his anxiety. And then we actually watched a clip from The Joker with Joaquin Phoenix when he does this dance. I think it's down the he does like a bird dance or something. So, and then that made us associate to, you know, there's a like, some people say that when you have anxiety, you need to lift your arms. So we like inspired like Joaquin Phoenix and and doctor's advice. We mixed that together. So we always try to do something physical with his anxiety. And I also think that that's why like people actually notice notice that, because it's not just, you know, a feeling that he's feeling. And also we worked with breath.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that more externalized. And you mentioned like you're just like a master class taking different scenes from films and incorporating that into the show. How about with August? Because he's also dealing with a lot, family money issues, the prescription medication. He's at the gym working out a lot on his body. So tell me, what did you talk about with Malte and how you wanted to tap into these emotions and a lot of them being sheltered?
Yeah, I mean, August, the character of August, that was something also me and Lisa talked about early on, that we're usually we're like used to girls and females having issues with their bodies and like eating disorders, and you know, they want to be best at everything, but we put that on Malte or on August. So it was really important for us to me and Malte talked a lot about that. Actually, Malte he had during the pre-production, we had like this, he was on a building muscles diet. So, and he trained. So he had actually like a physical preparation time before we shot the show. So we talked a lot about body image and why and what that is for August. And that's also a way of like handling anxiety and pressure.
I'd like to see the, those two different sides because they're completely kind of different characters, but they're both going through a lot.
Yeah.
Now, we spoke with Ivor Forsling, who stars as Eric. He mentioned a couple of scenes that unfortunately didn't make the cut, singing Remember in the car and Eric giving Wilhelm the Frog Prince snow globe. Are there any other deleted scenes or Easter eggs that you can share with us that aren't like publicly known?
Well, I mean, yeah, of course there are, because it's a process. But I also feel like we should leave some magic to the show. Like I feel like what didn't make the cut wasn't supposed to be there. Uh, so yeah.
What is your process without divulging too much? Because I do understand that aspect of wonder, right? Like leaving it
Yeah.
up to the viewers to interpret. So what is your process though in terms of deciding, what makes the cut and what doesn't?
I mean, everything, basically everything you do, uh, and the whole process is like different tools to complete the story, to tell a story. And the last like stage is basically like sound editing or sound designing. So up till, and the last step in the image is the editing room. So we it's really important for me to make choices in the editing room that are true to what we want to tell. And sometimes something work on paper, or something work on set, or something work in a scene. But then when you see the whole, it's like, but this is distracting us from what we really want to tell. So that's why like we always need to, or that's why you need to edit, and that's why sometimes things don't make it to the cut, and sometimes you need to add scenes, you need to write new scenes, or you need to add stuff. So I think it's all about like how do we best tell what we want to tell.
Especially like in the time you're given. And I guess that's what your job is, to make these kind of hard decisions and
Yeah.
choices. Now, season 2, are there any thoughts or insights that you can share?
My thoughts is that I hope that there will be a season 2. I really like, I want to watch season 2. So I'm hoping for it.
Have you spoken with like Lisa and the writers, even if it hasn't been greenlit yet? Have they been like conceptualizing, thinking of ideas?
I mean, we always have ideas, and like but I have nothing more to tell you.
I know it's all hush hush. I think people are looking for people to slip or say, "Oh yeah, we've got a season 2 and cast interviews and stuff like that." But I think it's a really exciting time because it has captured the hearts and eyes and minds of so many people around the world. What is that
Yeah.
love and support like meant to you? We spoke about it briefly, but what have you seen online that's really stuck with you and been memorable?
I mean, eh, I get so many stories every day of people finding like comfort in the series and the show. People like coming out to their families, or people watching the show with their families, and still like people who haven't come out, and just teenagers feeling represented, or even like middle-aged people uh, writing and saying that I wish that a show like this would air when I was a teenager, because I had a hard time. But also stuff like fandoms, I didn't know that they existed. like like people who also like find each other in the fandoms, and who connect and like become friends. And I mean, I've never in my life, this is the first time I'm experiencing something like this, and it's like, it's really humbling being a part of a work like this. And I also really want to say that this, I mean, filmmaking is a collective work, and I know that it's often like the actors or me as a director or the creators are like putting in front or being like the representatives of a show, but it's really like we have electricians, we have people who light the show, we have like craft members, and everyone is equally important. And it's like it's really a collective work. This show wouldn't have existed without everyone. So I'm really happy for everyone's sake.
It really is a team effort, and something that you've said in a past interview, that you wanted to become a filmmaker to participate in changing the world. And I think with this show you have, and everyone involved, really congratulations on it. What advice or tips though would you have for aspiring filmmakers who want to follow in your footsteps and kind of dip their toes into storytelling?
I would say work and go to school. And it depends on, no one will offer you anything. So I think that you need to work for it. And I think it's a bit problematic because in our society today, sometimes I feel like we feel like everything is available and everything is possible, but it's possible only if you work for it. So it will never come to you. So I really advise people to go to school, study filmmaking, make films, write, and also ask yourself, why do you want to make films? Do you have, what do you want to tell? What's your voice? Because I think that is the most important thing to know. Like, why do I want to do this? And also connect with people. That was what like saved me. I just called and emailed people, and I even went to people's offices.
Cold calling, that kind of stuff, right? anything to help.
Yeah.
And our signature question for you: if you could be any ice cream flavor, which would you be and why?
Hazelnut. I'm more like of a chocolate nut ice cream person.
I love that answer. Thank you so much, Rojda, for taking the time to chat. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for taking your time.
Of course, make sure to check out Young Royals. Season 1 is out on Netflix, and we will see you next time.